What's going on, everybody? GemMint here. Today we're going to take a look at the Absolute Superman for All Seasons by DC Comics. It's actually the first time I ever heard about or read this story, and I'm such a huge fan of Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale's Batman work. It's usually the omnibus that I recommend when people ask me what's a Batman omnibus I should get. So not only was it interesting to see their take on Superman, we get their thought process on how they chose the artistic style, what they wanted to talk about, and more in this Absolute. So before we get into it, I gotta thank Organic Price Books. That's where I get all my collected editions. If you're looking for any, make sure to hit organicpricebooks.com. Use code GEMMINT every time. It'll save you an extra $2. With that out the way, let's jump into the book. All right, so let's take a look at the slipcase. You see the wraparound artwork. We have the spine here in the back, and I love the texturing that they did, not only on the slipcase here, but also the hardcover itself. And they've already had the most prestigious format of books with the Absolute editions, but they have gone another level now, adding these textures in like the Alan Moore Swamp Things or the ornate detail in the Sandman Absolutes. $100 cover price. We saw the slipcase. Here's the actual hardcover. Jeph Loeb writing these stories, Tim Sale on the artwork, and they brought in Bjarne Hansen, I think I'm pronouncing that right, to do watercolors. Now there's a great foreword that you got to read here by Jeph Loeb, and we'll get into that, but kind of giving you the thought process on how they came up with the story and the aesthetics. Here's the spine, same image of Superman, Clark on the back in black and white. Here we have the interior cover page. We get into the credits. Now this is not an action-packed Superman blasting you with eye lasers type of story. It's a Clark Kent story. It's a very human story. So you're getting these pictures of Clark growing up, as we have some more credits, him going to high school, table of contents. Tim Sale passed away in 2022, so everybody kind of gives us a little something about Tim. It really makes this story hit that much harder, especially with the introduction by Jeph Loeb, talking about following up the Dark Knight's Long Halloween and Dark Victory, and how they couldn't go with the same dark color tone. They had to bring in the brightness, the light for Superman, which is why they tapped Bjarne to do the watercoloring, and it just gives it a completely different vibe. So it's Superman for All Seasons. It's 4 issues, and they are in season, so spring is the first issue here. All 4 issues are narrated by somebody else. So here is the first issue. This one is narrated by Jonathan Kent. We're getting a lot of Superman's origin stories, his upbringing, him growing up, and why he became Superman, the man that he is today, which is a hero. It kind of plays with the idea of, hey, if you can do anything, why wouldn't you just use that for personal gain? And going into why Clark decides to use his powers to help other people. The Tim Sale art style feels familiar, but with the Bjarne coloring, it feels completely different. Jeph Loeb's writing is as interesting as ever. You really feel attached to the characters in this story, even though you kind of feel like you've read this story before, even if you haven't read it, just because we've seen these scenes depicted in movies and other comics or retelling of the origins. A little bit of a twist, not the same thing. It's not like Pa Kent dies in the tornado here, but just kind of the same feeling of what Clark did when he found out he had powers as a young boy and how he chose to use them. Great stuff with Lana Lang here too, that carries over from the issues where Superman confides in her and lets her know that he is Superman, even though she has feelings for him. And they expound on that in one of the later issues on how that really kind of ruined her chances of ever being with Clark Kent. Beautiful artwork here. I mean, when you're reading this Absolute, you understand why they decided to give this story the treatment. You get so many huge double-page spreads. A lot of this, like especially this spread, it gave me like Mobius vibes. It almost felt like, when you're reading the Inkle. And even though, like I said, it's not a big, bombastic battle royale Superman book, and the art style is very unique, it really grows on you, and it gives you that somber kind of tone. It makes Superman feel like this humble, gentle giant. Then we get introduced to Lex Luthor at the end, going into the summer issue. So it moves forward, kind of like I said, retelling of the origin. Big double-page spread. Superman first showing up to Metropolis, helping out for the first time. Lex Luthor resenting Superman because it was his city that he built from the ground up, and now Superman has come, this alien, this foreigner with powers, and now everybody loves him. Then we get the Lois Lane introduction. She was a stowaway in that submarine chasing a story, showing us Jeph Loeb's version of Clark Kent at the Daily Planet, working as a reporter, working with Lois Lane, introducing that set of side characters, and then always coming back home to Smallville for like solace. It's funny, like they described it as his fortress of solitude. That's how he described Smallville to Lois and them. So then we get to where we have conflict. Lex Luthor is jealous of Superman's popularity. He brings in his own squad to be the saviors of the city. They leave people behind or don't notice this lady burning in the building, but Superman can see with the X-ray vision. He can put out the fire right away. This is a job for Superman. Yeah, that's where Lois publishes her first front page article with Superman, interviewing the woman he saved, which Lex Luthor would later exploit and turn her into a villain, but that'll be in the next season, right? Fall, here we go. I dug this piece. It gave me like a Frank Miller Dark Knight's Returns vibe. I feel like the art gets better and better with each issue as well. Like they really started getting into their stride. The double page spreads continue. The depiction of Lex Luthor felt very familiar. It's almost like they pulled a Simpsons here, man. And then the confrontation, the conflict between Luthor and Superman. This is the brainwashing of that woman that Superman saved. Then we get Lex Luthor's attacks, gassing everybody in Metropolis. It was heart-pounding, like you're racing, flipping through the pages, even though, again, it's not a big battle or a big fight, but you still feel the anticipation of what's going on here. This was a pretty dope scene, though, too, stopping the train. Yep, so here we go, full villain now. She has become Toxin. That was pretty messed up. It's kind of shows Superman, even though, you know, he saved this woman, and then he still tried to do the right thing, but she ends up dying anyway. So it gives us a glimpse of how Clark feels under defeat. You know, even though Lex Luthor wasn't physically stronger than him, he still like landed him a blow that hurt him with an innocent life being taken that way. Here we have Lois Lane trying to put together the pieces of the puzzle that Clark Kent is Superman. Due to those events, he's gone back to Smallville, going back to town and seeing how everything is kind of the same here. It's this slow, small town vibe, the old men playing cards, the old friends that they left behind, Lana Lang and Pete, the neighbor. Then we got a flood that comes into the city here, so Clark Kent has to do the right thing, stop the town from being flooded, throws on the red and blue once again. Good thing Superman was close by, kind of thing. Beautiful scenes of him stopping the flood from coming through, building this dam, having to save his father and the dog, and just doing what Superman does, helping people, right? Making him realize that he needs to be where the people are to help everybody. So back to Metropolis, back to the Daily Planet with the story, which makes Lois a little upset. Still showing flaws with the Lex cops here as they're trying to save this kid, but end up making him fall off the building. Luckily, Superman is there to save him, and that's what he's there for, man. He's there to save the people. Very nice stories for those 4 issues. We do get a couple of other stories, the same type of concept, like those narrations from Jonathan Kent to Lex Luthor to Lois Lane to Lana Lang. So a couple of short stories in that same vein. Superman and Batman narrating the first time they ever met when they were children. And you have another narration here from Ma Kent's point of view of a story of Superman just helping out a citizen, being selfless, but still having the power to make it all right at the end. And then it has like this kind of collage, similar to what we saw in the beginning of the book, little milestones and origins. Then we get Sam's story, another backup, different narration from a character from Smallville, how Superman reacts to him as a human being having pain that he can't help him. And it really hits hard too, man, when you think about the passing of Tim Sale and everything. So a very kind of like emotional story and a beautifully packaged format here with this Superman for All Seasons. Some original promo material from 1998 when the story came out, house ads, so you got Tim Sale art. This was a very cool read because this was the first time this was ever reprinted, originally designed for a t-shirt, and then they ended up using it for, I guess, some kind of promotional material and for the hardcover of this book. Got a Wizard magazine cover. Of course, you got the ribbon here to act as the bookmark. Then it gives us some interior inked pages from throughout the 4 issues. Such a nice contrast to their Batman work. I think they nailed it, choosing an artist that can capture that color palette, as well as they captured the dark tones of A Long Halloween or Haunted Night. Here they're talking about the blue line coloring technique. That's what the artists use to get that watercolor look. That's why you don't have those dark lines or the dark blacks. Man, great stuff. This video is brought to you by THATSPIDERMANBOOTH.com. The October subscription box is now live. For just $50, you get over $100 of retail value and 5 comic books, that's store exclusives plus regular variants. You get access to Club That Spider-Man booth with the members-only store, giveaways via the monthly YouTube shows, and of course the exclusive variant limited to this box by our good buddy Javon Jordan. We have a Hail Crow King of Hell issue #1 with a Sonic the Hedgehog homage. Head on over to THATSPIDERMANBOOTH.com and sign up for that subscription box today. All right, so there we go. Like I said, it's not one of those heart-pounding, action-packed Superman stories, but it's one of those stories that really hits you in the feels, especially when you read like the biographies and the introductions talking about Tim Sale and his passing and just Jeph Loeb's whole attitude about it and life in general, the life that they wrote and expressed in this book. It was great, man. A great take on Superman. It felt familiar. It had a lot of heart to it, though, and it still felt like its own thing. I dug the story. What a beautiful book, man. The canvas hardcover with the slipcase looks great. Oversized artwork. I was a fan of this one. A quick read, but a good one, man. Let me know what you guys think about this, if you ever checked it out or if you picked up the Absolute. Leave me a comment down below. Appreciate you watching. Stay minty fresh. Peace.